Okay, Derren, so is that off?
Yeah, 1 second.
Done?
Okay.
Okay. So if you just go into the middle of that parquet floor area, just forward a little bit into the light, a little bit further forward.
Yeah, sorry.
That's it, that's it. Okay, and what's your best side? Okay, let's go. So what's happening today?
Well, you are my oldest friend. You're 93. You're my oldest friend from school, and we've decided that to make a film, a documentary about me. So Nigel's going to be filming me for the next few days at home. I know you want to give people an intriguing insight into a fascinating behind-the-scenes glimpse, so I'm up for that. I don't have to prepare anything or do any work, which is quite nice. So yeah, you're welcome to follow me around and look at anything you like.
Over the last 10 years, Derren has taken tricks and mind reading and all that entails and just dragged it, kicking and screaming, you know, into the 21st century.
I love the fact that he's extremely honest about what he does, and yet he still manages to bamboozle you, you know.
Derren Brown in one phrase.
He's like a sprite. He is. He's like a little sprite.
Hello.
Thank you very much indeed. Cheers, nice to meet you.
I've come to Cheltenham for the literary festival, and embarrassingly, which shows how little I know about the festival, I thought this was going to be like 50 people in a tent. I thought it was like a little marquee, and I just found out it's 2,000 people.
You know, we're living at a time where you're seeing one of the all-time greats of magic, doing extraordinary television and arguably even better live shows.
He's really rare, because he's sort of everything. He's a great actor, he's a great comic, he's an old-style showman.
Magic, mystery, and the art of illusion.
I mean, that's...
I mean, why are we not... I mean,
exactly, yeah, that's what, yeah.
Good luck.
Two great illusionists of our age.
It goes with the package, and we're meeting Derren Brown. What will he find out about me? What will he know about me? I think people are apprehensive. Absolutely nonsense, because Derren, if you've ever met him, is a pussycat.
You've had a bit of a sort of long-term relationship with taxidermy, haven't you?
I love facsimile and fabrication, things looking real that aren't real. I don't know why that's always excited me. Yeah, I sort of get them from auctions and sometimes antiques shops. These parrots have come from the parrot sanctuary that I'm patron of. Look, that's what will happen to you if you keep shitting on my books. Look.
Isn't that a little bit strange?
It is a bit strange, isn't it? This guy was someone's pet, who he got stuffed and never picked him up from the shop. Oh, the pickled chimp. This chap was stillborn. This is from the 1920s. It's a beautiful thing. It's sort of peaceful. So, I don't know, is that disturbing? You find that odd?
I find it a bit disturbing.
A little bit.
I think I find that disturbing, and you've got one or two sort of deformed animals, haven't you?
The deformed animals, yes. And that's the eight-legged lamb. Nothing wrong with that.
It is BBC Radio 2 in concert Thursday night, and tonight it is all about this man.
Everything Derren does is a trick. I just want to shake him, because I'm just like, how do you do this, and why can I not work it out? I had to do this trick with buttons, and I had to put them onto a tray, and then I had to hit Derren. Hello?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And I playfully slapped him around the cheek, and he went, no, you've got to do it harder. So I hit him again. And his cheek by then is getting quite mottled and quite red.
One more to go, hard.
Probably a lot of people would fantasise about what I did to Derren, like smacking him really hard in the face, and it felt surprisingly good.
49.
And then he told me how many buttons there were. Yeah. He got it completely right. 49, bingo.
I think what Derren will do is just go to the ends of the earth to make people amazed.
In the trick with Simon Pegg, I dropped all kind of subtle hints into his mind and about his ideal birthday present.
They may have said, I want X, whatever that is, you know, like a really nice car, like a BM or an Xbox or something like that, something they really wanted.
And when I asked him, he said a BMX bike. But he'd actually written down a very different choice 2 weeks earlier. It was a leather jacket.
What he'd pulled on me actually tugged the rug from beneath me. You see it on the show, I kind of go, huh? I go all white. I think he's got me.
The playfulness has always been an important part of Derren's fun and charm, because that enables him to play with somebody's mind, but in a way that doesn't make them feel too uncomfortable, but clearly makes them feel like they're being manipulated.
Some of the stuff is quite light-hearted and upbeat. Some of it is quite sinister, quite dark, sometimes to the point that people get upset about it.
In the middle of the night.
One of the things that many people remember for Derren's work is the darker stuff, the weirder stuff, the little horror movie type references that we like to incorporate.
Let me see what you see.
Blair Witch routine was a really interesting routine, I think, because it was one of the first things that really established Derren as being on a different path from traditional magic.
Keep looking at me. Just close your eyes.
There's some pretty fucking dark material there, but that's exciting.
The little girl, the little girl there?
The Zombie Arcade was one of the darker ones. We had hypnotised this guy, Fabian, through an arcade game in a pub that we'd set up. Woke him up in exactly the same set, where he's now about to play this real-life zombie game, continuing from where he left off in the pub. It was lots of adrenaline. It was fun and scary.
There have been occasions when contributors in the show have been a bit upset or a bit disturbed, you know, during the routine. You know, that guy's freaking out.
People respond to hypnosis very differently. Some people will say, oh, I was just playing along and knew exactly what I was doing. And others will have no memory of the whole thing. They'll be convinced it had nothing to do with them. It's fascinating that they will do that.
Oh, come on, it's wicked.
But they're always very well taken care of, and they always have this real sense of exhilaration at the end of it.
Good.
It continues to be fascinating, even though I've done it for so long.
Do you think it'd be fair to say that a lot of your acts sort of rather mess with people's minds?
Yeah, I hope so. I think this stuff's most interesting when for me, if it touches on sort of people's sort of beliefs or slightly kind of uncomfortable areas.
So where do you think your fascination for the minds, where does that come from?
It's not so much that I've always had a fascination with the human psyche. I think it's more that it just grew out of being an insecure student and kind of wanting to feel in control and to be liked, and you know, all the people that I could hypnotise well tended to be the sorts of sporty, rugged types that had beforehand sort of intimidated me. So it was really quite interesting to suddenly be able to kind of control those people. You know, that was the sort of level I think it was working on at the start. It was probably the experiments with hypnosis that started everything for me, which is back in Bristol, really. It was a very formative part of my life. So I came to Bristol to go to university, and it was in my first year there that I saw a poster advertising a hypnosis show, which I went to, and that was it. That's what started it all off. This is the quadrangle. Keep off the grass. Good. At least I did that. Hello, is it Ross?
It is.
Hello, Derren. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Thank you. I guess you heard we might be coming in. Can I come in?
Yeah, of course.
Can we come in and have a...
Of course. Have a grand.
Oh my God.
Is it strange coming back?
Yeah. It's all coming back.
This room was particularly important, wasn't it?
Well, this is where I started hypnotising people and kind of my career started. They used to sit in that chair and people would come in like once a week.
But when it very, very first began to work,
yeah,
what was that like?
Well, it was a very slow process. So at the beginning, I talked someone 20 minutes into a sort of a trance induction and maybe suggest maybe that the hand was a bit too heavy to lift or something very tentative and would be very exciting when they said, yes, my hand couldn't lift, or maybe that it would float up in the air and there might be a little bit of that. And just, you sort of get braver and braver. And then after a while, it just became something that just sort of had a feel for, I think. By the time I'd graduated, I started doing close-up magic, sleight of hand magic. I was only occasionally doing the hypnosis, and I was earning my living as a magician. So I've, over recent years, become friendly with Stephen Merchant, and found out that while I was learning those skills while I was in Bristol, they were also formative years for him. He was becoming a stand-up comedian. Oh, it hasn't changed. That's a relief.
Is it exactly the same?
Pretty much, yes. I'd come every Thursday and do a couple of hours, 3 hours maybe, around the tables.
Did the restaurant owners know? Or did you just come in?
No, it was officially
You're like a sort of SAS magician.
I did about 10 years here, and I was still doing here. When
for 10 years you were performing in here every Thursday?
Roughly, yeah, about that. And I was building up my skills, and then people would hire me to come and do their parties and their corporate events and things like that. So that's how I earned my living for 10 years. We should sit down, shouldn't we?
So just give me an example. If I was sat here, I'm with a beautiful woman, obviously. That's a given. And we're just having a romantic time. I'm just whispering some sweet
nothings. I have to interrupt?
Yeah, what do you say?
Oh, God. Well, I'd be wandering around with this deck of cards.
I'd see you lurking.
Yeah, I have a deck of cards, and there's this, you sort of...
That's really creepy.
Yeah. I'm Derren. I'm a kind of magician. I'm here for the...
You're a kind of magician?
Yes. So they go a kind of magician, and it would suggest a sort of something exciting. And then I would sit down and I'd ask your name.
So it's in a way, it's like hitting on someone in a bar.
Yes.
Relentlessly for a whole evening every Thursday, which is pretty much my life anyway.
Which is, I was going to say.
Yeah, but wow, that's...
When I first met Derren, he was earning his living primarily as a close-up magician doing sort of amazing things with people in restaurants. And so when David Blaine became a huge hit on Channel 4, we thought there's room for a mind-reading guy who does that, but with a mind-reading slant. And so I called Derren up. I'm Andrew O'Connor, I'm Leader Productions, I'd like to make a TV show with you, maybe let's meet and talk. And he was not at all excited or interested. Well, all right, yeah, OK, maybe I'm in London next week, let's meet up.
I'm going to ask you to think of one of 5 cards. One of these. Ready? 1.
The very first trick he showed me face to face, it's one of my favourite things that personifies what he does brilliantly. And he did that trick for Stephen Fry many years later on television.
Marvellous, thank you so much.
He spread a pack of cards on the table face up and said, just look at one of those cards and think of it.
And in your mind, not out loud, obviously, just repeat that card to yourself over and over again. Just over and over again, like King of Diamonds, King of Diamonds, King of Diamonds.
Shut up!
Was that it?
Fuck off!
And I felt like the ground had opened up and swallowed me.
There's a rather extreme reaction with that, is it?
And I had no idea how he did it.
It's a little more difficult than I thought. Do you know why?
Why is that?
Well, there is no King of Diamonds in there.
No, there was.
And he spread the deck again, and the card had vanished.
King of Hearts.
Oh!
Excuse me. Your card there, the King of Diamonds. Thank you, Stephen.
I just want to burn him at a stake and watch his witch's heart bubble. It's extraordinary. Great trick.
The shift from being a close-up magician in Bristol doing hypnosis shows to being a television magician is a massive shift, but Derren took to it like a duck to water. Initially, we made a series of 3 specials and a television series called Mind Control.
Sorry, what was the stop you were getting off at? Look at me, what was the stop you were getting off at?
The idea was that, you know, it's magic psychology, it's suggestion, it had a broader range. Does hypnosis exist? Does suggestion exist? And so it was more appealing because it's not just, oh, it's a trick, that's the end of the discussion. It's what is that guy doing?
No, just trying to find it at the moment.
Look, you got it. What is it?
Warren Street.
Warren Street, very good.
I suppose Uri Geller was the start for me. No one had really captured the imagination of the power of the mind or psychology since Geller. So it was trying to make magic relevant and intelligent.
So number 6 has not won.
No, it hasn't won.
So you shouldn't get anything on this at all.
No, it's worthless.
I think from day one, they were what we'd call in TV water cooler moments that people would be talking about the following day. One of the classic things that people remember from the early days was being able to win money on losing bets.
This is the dog you're looking for. That's why we came to this window.
There was no through line as we moved on to with some of the later specials. It was Derren himself that wanted to move on, and he's managed to find items that have sustained an hour and a half on TV that have all led up to a tremendous finale.
The premise behind Russian Roulette's really simple. For Derren, it's a 1 in 6 chance. It's a bullet, it's a gun, it's live television.
Are you happy with that? And
Russian Roulette is the show that made Derren into a big UK star because everybody in the country was talking about it.
Thank you. I'm going to bring the armourer over. This is the revolver from Russian Roulette. The shield there that was put on the gun to make sure I couldn't see into the chambers. And it's all mounted on the sandbag with the bullet holes. It was a very terrifying day. There are 2 things you don't see on the programme when you watch it. One, that my leg is just doing this under the table constantly. And of course also there's, you know, the ambulances and everything.
Select a round. Stand it there.
I was the guy who had to put the bullet in the chamber of the gun and then pass it over to Derren to play Russian Roulette with. You're in a barn, it's dark, there's a guy with a loaded gun to his head. It's hard to detach yourself. It felt pretty nerve-wracking.
How did your mum feel about it?
I did ring her up and say, look, it'll be fine, I know what I'm doing, please, you know, don't, well, of course, don't be silly, dear. That was the response.
The Russian Roulette absolutely terrified me.
Number 3, I feel is safe.
I was almost sitting, you know, behind the couch. I had cooked a meal for Bob and I and sat down to eat it, and there is no way. He ate his dinner, but I couldn't eat a thing. It was such a dangerous thing to do.
Number 5.
it didn't seem like it was going right, and there'd never been such a palpable, most brilliant 45 seconds of television as when he was deciding what to do.
He hesitated for a long time, and I thought, he's not going to do this. He's not going to do it. He rang me about 10 minutes later and said, "What did you think?" And I said, "Don't ever do anything so dangerous again."
Was there controversy in kind of this is sort of Channel 4 sinking to a new low?
There was controversy. The idea was that the stunt was even happening, which was great because that was sort of what we were hoping for. And then there was the disappointment that I hadn't actually blown my brains out. There was like, what have we just been watching kind of reaction, which I've sort of had since as well on other things.
Yeah.
It's an odd one, but.
And that meant that you could do some really top drawer restaurants.
Yeah, some of the nicer restaurants in London.
I remember sitting down and thinking, oh my goodness, we've done an amazing 60 minutes of television. How could we possibly follow that?
We welcome Jane into the room, just allowing that presence to be here.
I had no idea that their reactions were going to be as extreme.
The 13 of us welcome you here.
The Seance Show was my second special after the Russian Roulette. It was famously the most complained about show in TV history, I think.
Jane, move the ball to let us know that you are here.
Okay, all right. Okay.
The idea was that we'd get 12 students in what purported to be a derelict scene of a terrible group suicide. The point of it was to see whether fraudulent Victorian techniques would work on a modern audience, and quite satisfyingly, as it turned out, they did.
And it explains a lot of these things that went on.
So earlier in the seance programme, I'd used this thing called the Spirit Cabinet, which is one of my favourite mediumistic props. It's just feels to me like great theatre, and so many kind of bizarre things happen.
Do you want to go?
Me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay.
Okay. How'd you go?
And it was through performing that I got to know Ian Sharkey.
This is my first year of university, and I got asked to be on the seance, which was like a really clever ghost train. It really felt that at the time.
Hang on.
What you see, I mean, that was genuine. That's a genuine emotional response from me, and was genuine fear.
You've broken it. What happened?
I don't know. I just needed to get out. I don't feel right. That's really weird.
Talk me through it.
I remember really feeling, I have to know how he does that. I've just got to know.
Ian was studying creative writing, so I said to him, do you want to come and write on the show?
Yeah, no. Feel.
And that was it. We became great friends, and now he's my creative other half.
Wow.
So sit facing that way.
Is it this way?
Yeah, got the old Ouija board out today. We are going to run through some really early ideas. But hold the pointer around the other way so it taps. I think the tapping will be. Sometimes we just like to kind of try these half ideas on their feet and see what they kind of look like. So that's our fun job for today. Is this creepy with the real automaton? Well, when will Everton win the cup? I don't even know what that means.
I think the one thing that really hits you about Derren is his sense of humour. You know, it's when you're working with him, there are days when we're crying with laughter, and then from that, these weird ideas will come. But it's like that every single day, you know.
Put the mask on and slip your top off. We'll carry on. When it comes to actually writing the TV shows, there'll be a 2-week slot. We've got to come up with ideas. We need 2 ideas for specials. Okay, so at that point, that's the only chance you get to think.
The writing process with Derren is really interesting. You have to start with the end, so you've got to start with the final stunt and then work backwards to a logical beginning.
The heist is probably a good example of this sort of writing process, that you work backwards.
So if you missed the start of the show, this is Gresham Street in the City of London. The Bank of England is just down there. We have a fake security van, a fake security guard, and £100,000 of real money. The heist had come out of an idea whereby I might use my skills to rob a bank. And it just felt like, wouldn't it be more interesting to have somebody else do it?
The whole point of heist is how do you get good people to do terrible things, like an armed robbery.
Target is inside. Target is in zone 1.
Everything from day one right to the final stunt has to be massively stage managed. You know, every tiny nuance has to be thought out.
And cue car.
So the car goes past with the music blaring, and there's the colour green and the "Do It" slogan on the poster, and all the triggers create what could be a potentially criminal urge. It was really, really exciting.
Excuse me, mate. Put down. Tell you what, mate, you try anything and you're dead, alright? If you've got family, I'm fucking putting you in this. Mate, if you move, I swear to God, you're dead, mate.
So it's a very interesting and quite difficult writing process to create a drama for somebody who maybe doesn't even know that they're part of it.
All right, here, come with me.
Well, I've always painted portraits really since I was very small. I kind of started really with caricatures, and over the last couple of years I've sort of moved into a more serious sort of approach. And I love it. It's sort of my big hobby. Especially when the job you do is essentially quite a public thing, it's quite nice to have something that balances that at home. You know, it's a treat. It's really nice sometimes to be able to use the paintings in the magic. And there was the trick with Simon Callow and his portrait. That was fun. Anything you want.
Everybody, from Judi Dench downwards, just said, you must do this. This is just the most exciting thing that will ever have happened to you in your life.
So it's a word that I'm thinking of, which I'm going to try and send to you. It is 4 letters long.
He asked me to think of a letter, and I thought of R. And then he asked me to think of a word, and I thought of road.
Road. R-O-A-D.
Yes. And he said, come over here, please. And he told me to look at the eyes, and I looked into the eyes, and there, in the whites of one of the eyes, was written the word.
That's extraordinary.
Road. That's amazing.
So these are more recent ones. It's Rufus Wainwright. Are you a fan, or do you know him?
Yeah, I know him. I'm not a fan, but I know who he is. I like her voice when she used to sing A Fine Romance on the
Did she
sitcom.
sing it?
Yeah.
Might as well play bridge with our maiden on.
It's amazing, that. I love the way that the focus is sharper in some parts of the picture than others. Almost like a photograph, yeah.
Can you just tilt slightly towards me, just slightly, a bit more, yeah.
Yeah. I met Uri Geller once.
Did you?
Twice, actually.
He can't not bend spoons for people. He seems.
No, he bent a spoon. I've got a bent spoon that's signed. What I like about him is he says,
I would do it, but it makes me very tired. It really makes me very tired because I use a lot of mental energy.
Which I'm sure it does. How long ago was it that you were on the show? It was
5 years ago, maybe. I asked you immediately afterwards how the trick was done, and you looked me right in the eye, and you said, for the sake of our friendship, you must never, ever ask me that question again. You've done it all mystical and Jedi-like.
I think I was being overly dramatic.
You were, but it worked.
Now we'll choose 3 cards. Any 3 you want to use, you're going to get 3 goes. Matt was one of the first celebrities to come on the show. It's a close-up trick that has this sort of psychological approach.
Those 3, Derren Brown.
So he picked 3 cards at random, and then I got him to guess what he thought they would be. What's the last card? You said 6 of clubs, 4 of clubs. What's the last one?
Jack of diamonds.
And with the exception of one, he got them right.
Go on, you can turn it over.
Oh! So then I give him an envelope, and inside the envelope is my prediction of the 3 cards that he would say. And of course, being very clever, I get them all right.
Well, look, Jack of diamonds, 4 of clubs, and the 6 of clubs.
How do I think Derren did his trick on me? Well, I've thought about this for quite a while, and what I think he did was he went back in time in a time-travelling machine. So it was like a time travel thing, I'm pretty sure.
Just getting ready. I really do enjoy the TV and I'm very grateful for it. Though for me, the principal thing, my first love, is the theatre.
Jenny's the only person who's allowed to do this in the world. Obviously we don't normally make that noise. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I get to muck around with my best friends for months on end. And it's fun, you know, it's a fun process. The show is fun, so that is what I enjoy the best.
They're shouting. So take your flies, please. Flies are done up, thank you. Ian's last job is to check that my flies are done up.
For me, the sort of quintessential Derren is his stage show. It's only then you get the sense of A, how funny he is, B, how sharp he is, how fast on his feet he is, and also his command of an audience is remarkable.
Theatre stuff's loads of fun because you're getting a kind of reaction from an audience every single night. You've got the applause, you've got people on stage reacting, which is really great.
Take the microphone, call it, come to me.
Come to me.
Come to me, come to me, keep calling, even without the
Obviously with the stage, there's more showmanship involved.
Right, back over here, take the mic.
I'm entertaining people for 2.5 hours, so has to be laughs and frights and all the rest of it. And there has to be the kind of ta-da sense of reveal, you know, which is very different from the TV.
Sorry, I'd have loved you to win it. Most people do change their mind at the end. I was really hoping you would. I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Just very briefly, if I can find my pen, just keep your eyes focused on the easel for a second, please. Oh no, you've seen him. That's my fault. Sorry, don't take your head off. You've got 20 minutes. Now, by doing this, by blindfolding myself, it becomes easier for me somehow to see the things that you're seeing in your head, even to think the things that you are thinking. And if you want...
The Oracle Act came from a real heyday of mind readers and mentalists in the 20s and 30s, and that sort of act has all sorts of different forms. And this gets used by psychics, gets used in spiritualist churches.
Great, okay, say stop when I...
For me, it's the purest form of mind reading, and it was a huge joy to sort of find my own approach to it.
It's about where this is, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Yes, it'll be in France.
Yes.
You spent time in France.
I remember being sitting in the audience and just hearing gasps of astonishment throughout the whole evening.
Blakey, yes?
Yes, that's just weird,
Now,
yeah.
Yes, also, please, you need to whether or not, you're also thinking in your mind whether or not you're going to have any kids is going through your mind, yes?
Oh, crap,
yes?
yeah.
They just, you can see them, their brains are whirring and the cogs are kind of grinding together to try and solve this problem that he's presented them.
You need to look at this. You've been thinking about it, but it's...
Well, Andy Nyman has directed the stage shows and been my principal collaborator for pretty much all of these 10 years. Obviously, we're very dear friends. I'm quite cerebral and he's quite kind of emotional and passionate, and which was always a really interesting team. But at the start, he really kind of, I think, modelled me and turned me into something that was going to be good on TV and watchable. I owe him really everything.
Ladies and gentlemen of the Ghost Stories Company, this is your beginner's call. Your call, please, Mr. Nyman.
Derren's greatest strength is his ability to try things that have never been tried before and have no fear of failure. That's extraordinary, you know. There are so many moments I'm proud of, really, within all of the work. Russian Roulette, live was incredible, you know, to be there and to have that fear. Those live moments, lottery, live, God almighty, so frightening. He's fearless.
Obviously, if you're doing anything live, it's risky, because anything could happen, anything could go wrong.
What it means is then the possibility of failure is much greater. But it's that thing of the safer you play, the duller it is.
We're broadcasting from a studio, and for security reasons, and so that nobody else benefits from what I'm doing here, it's just me and 2 cameramen in here. So
What Derren was risking was his entire reputation, professionally and publicly, and so that was a very scary 10 minutes.
This is my prediction. This prediction was made earlier on today. The numbers are there in numerical order, and we're going to come to this in a minute too. Now,
Someone's written a piece in the papers talking about how it was definitely faked, and you can tell from Derren's fear. We've paused these moments here, and you can see Derren's micro expressions. And well, I am here to tell you that fear was tangible.
those are the lottery numbers for this week: 2, 11, 23, 28, 35 and 39.
It felt like a tremendous success. It was the most viewed clip on YouTube in the world. You know, it made world headlines. The papers were full of, oh, it was half balls, it was a mirror tube, it was split screen, it was, you know, and then you had all different versions on YouTube of people doing their solutions for it.
It was really exciting to do and a bit nerve-wracking. But the Friday night show, which then purported to reveal how I did it, that really makes me cringe.
6 random numbers came up live in the lottery, yet I knew what they would be beforehand, but not on my own. I had 24 very excited people hoping to predict them for me.
The idea was you'd have this sort of slightly fishy explanation all the way through, that it was a wisdom of crowds explanation. And it was supposed to be a little bit kind of, really? Would that work? But then at the end, there was a big twist that actually I'd fixed it. But with the huge amount of scrutiny that eventually came with the show, we realised we couldn't do it. So I ended up, I think, just feeling a bit disingenuous, that I was expecting people to believe that's really how I did it. And I'm always careful not to sort of insult people, or not to just kind of lie like that. So it's the only thing I've done that I'm just not happy with at all.
So if I'm ever asked how I predicted the lottery, I'm going to say it was just a trick. Good night. You guys better go in first, I suppose. Do you remember this?
What, your loo?
My loo, yeah, not do you remember my loo. We all remember my loo. Look, I put it in a loo.
Oh, what a lovely treat for you.
It is nice, isn't it? While you're having a poo.
That was made for Little Britain USA.
Yeah.
But I tell you what, if that doesn't help you do a shit, if that doesn't inspire you to poo, I don't know what will.
Well,
I really don't know what will.
Or more.
Good luck. Or more.
Perhaps a number 3. Not saying it hasn't happened.
A number 3. Let's not talk about that.
Let's leave.
Let's quit while we're
leave
behind.
the documentary crew in the toilet.
Yes.
We're here in this lovely, quiet, leafy suburban area to visit my parents. They've just moved, and I've only seen the new place a couple of times, so yeah, going to drop in on them.
Hello. Hi, Ted. How are you? Hello, darling. Lovely to see you.
Hello, lovely to see you. They've always been hugely supportive. Their philosophy seems to have always been just to let me do whatever I like. Most of the other law students had a huge amount of parental pressure on them. I had no pressure at all.
Well, he was a guide dog before.
He was a rubbish guide dog. He was a reject guide dog.
he wasn't a rubbish guide dog.
All these blind people ended up in lakes.
No, they didn't. It was horrible.
Well, it's 10 years, isn't it?
It is. I can't believe it's 10 years.
Does it seem like when I first started? And so I remember coming home from Bristol one day and saying, "I'm not going to be a lawyer. I'm going to be a magician."
Yes.
And you remember that? Oh, yes. Stuck in your mind.
It's really surreal because the first time he was on TV, we were really excited, and then I watched it and I just couldn't believe it was him. You know, this was you as a baby.
Is what I looked like when I was little.
Had lots of blonde hair. He was really an only child until he was almost 10, before his brother was born. He was, I think, a little bit lonely, because everything he did, It's the sort of thing you do on your own, you know, reading, writing, painting. You don't do it with other people. And so when his brother was born, that put a different dimension on things.
I remember you said, oh, we're going to go to a fun fair and go on the roller coaster.
Yeah.
But before we do that, you need to get into this suitcase at the top of the stairs. And I thought, okay, that's fine, I can do that. So I got in it, and you shut it, and then just kicked it down the stairs. And then I didn't really want to go after that, and we never went. Yeah.
I don't remember that.
I remember that.
In secondary school, if you weren't really part of the kind of sporty crowd, then, you know, I just got the piss taken out of me. And I think that's when I started to kind of develop an interest that led to performing. Sort of have mixed feelings about the place. I wasn't really... It was a lovely school, I don't know if I was really happy here. Not desperately unhappy either, but so it's just a mix of different feelings. I was never really bullied per se, but I was definitely a bit kind of picked on by kind of some of those rougher kids. Thank God it's the rougher kids that go on to have the really boring jobs and adult lives, while it's the kids that get picked on that grow up to do the interesting things. My father was the swimming instructor at the school. He was the swimming guy. He was Bob Brown with his cigar and his little Speedos. His beer belly hanging out over the top of them. That's kind of the image I have of him here for many years.
I think the door's open.
Is it? Wow. This is what was the swimming pool. They've allowed me to come and have a peek because it means so much to me, this place. This was my dad's empire, really. Oh, the sound, the acoustic is great. It still sounds like a swimming pool, doesn't it? Imagine doing exams in here. Hello! Makes me feel a bit sad. Look, it's still no running and jumping. Oh my God, you can get to the bottom of the pool. I'm so going to get detention for this. Oh, it's really strange. There's the steps, which I remember climbing down and just trying to hold my breath for as long as I could underwater and that kind of thing. I'm sure they have a beautiful new pool that is just stunning and modern compared to this one, but it does, just for me, because this is so personal to me, this does feel really sad. Something about seeing everything stripped away makes me see how far I've come. I was closer to my mum, I think, when I was younger, but as I've grown up, I've got closer to my dad. Standing in his office just made me very aware of how fond I am of him, of how much I love him. Just nostalgia, that sort of melancholy is bittersweet. Which I suppose is what melancholy is, isn't it? What I am very proud of was here at 30,000 feet, which was the last show that I did.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention, please? Due to a medical emergency, I'm sorry to report that the captain is currently incapacitated. It has become necessary to ask if there is a passenger on board who will be willing to help land this plane.
The idea of having somebody in an aeroplane and there's hidden cameras everywhere, and there's, you know, somebody has to land the plane because everyone's ill.
Who's going to help?
What I've done over the sort of 10 years or so is moved away from being kind of the clever guy going, hey, look at me, I can do this, I can read your mind, to sort of facilitating a process for somebody else, that interests me much more. It takes me out of the centre stage and it becomes more sort of human then, you know.
How can somebody help when we don't know how to fight? We put Matt Galley through quite a challenging experience to push him from quite a shy and withdrawn personality into a much more heroic and positive person.
When I wake him up, he will believe he's entering the cockpit, faced with the challenge of landing the plane and saving the lives of over 100 passengers.
Oh my God.
It was just so completely outrageous. My kids were just screaming at the television, just like, oh my God, what's going to happen?
Glide slow. Now slow. 10.
Yeah, keep it nice and straight there, Matt. That's a really good job, mate.
I've not felt that emotional about anything for many, many years. I welled up, I choked. So it was through pride.
I'm so looking forward to seeing him. We've kept in touch since the show, and I've seen him a couple of times, but this is the first time back in Leeds since we made the show.
We'd noticed over that month that we'd been following him and filming him that there'd been a real change because he was really kind of stepping up and engaging with life.
In a way, it's like getting your son back. He's now like he was 10 years ago.
Oh, this is all quite fancy, isn't it?
Do you like it?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. It's very good to know that Matt's life is genuinely changing.
So,
shoes, sorry, take shoes off.
It's okay.
He's made the big step of moving out from the family home and actually getting his own place. It's a big move for him, and I'm really proud of him. How's it all sort of been? Do you feel different, or is it just...
Feeling different is it's an understatement. You know, I still remember every single lesson that was taught to me in the show, and, you know, people that know me know that, you know, I would have never done anything like this before because I never had the confidence to do it.
You did it, Matt. Listen to me. You are a hero, Matt.
When I walked into the room and everybody was stood there, even now getting tingles down my back remembering it because it was nothing short of magical, it was just amazing. My girlfriend Liv was in floods of tears, I've never seen her like that before.
The whole point of the show was just putting some of those things in place for him to become a bit more of the person that he just is and should be and had sort of forgotten about.
Endlessly provocative. I think that's probably what he would like it to be, and I think that's exactly what it is.
What Derren's brought back to magic is good old-fashioned, old-time theatricality. And by doing that, he's just re-energized it, made it more kind of, just made it cool again.
If I had to sum Derren up in 3 words, I'd say man with beard. Well, it's 3 words, isn't it?
And I'd tell you what I
If he'd said 4 words, I would have said man with little beard, but we only had 3.